9 genius grandmom cooking recipes you'll wish you knew sooner. The best cooking secrets in history did not come from Michelin-star restaurants or world-class culinary schools. They came from ordinary grandmothers who turned cheap ingredients into unforgettable meals. They used tricks so powerful that they were eventually replaced on purpose by products you now spend money on. We found 9 of these tricks that the industry buried. You are going to wish someone told you this even sooner. Coating fish with mayonnaise before grilling. You see, grilling fish is notoriously unforgiving as it sticks and dries out. It also disintegrates the moment you breathe near it. Grandma faced that same problem in the 60s, but she had a trick that always did the work. She would coat every surface of the fillet with a thin layer of mayo, season right on top, and lay it down on a hot grill. Why, might you ask? Fat in the mayonnaise locks moisture inside while forming a protective crust on the outside. And there's more to it. Once the fish was cooked, the mayo flavor vanished completely, and all that was left was buttery, flaky, and perfectly golden fish. Non-stick spray never stood a chance here. Mayo on fish might have been unexpected, but you are not ready for what she hid inside her dessert. Vodka in pie dough. Who would have suspected Grandma was putting alcohol in her pie crust? Yet it turns out that's exactly how she liked it, and the reason behind it will blow your mind. Now, one thing you need to know is that pie crust has one sworn enemy: gluten. The moment water touches flour, gluten starts developing, and suddenly your crust is less melt in your mouth and more chew through it. But Grandma was never worried about that. She would swap half the water for cold vodka. Why, might you ask? Vodka still moistens the dough enough to hold everything together, but it does not trigger gluten the way water does. And during baking, the alcohol evaporates entirely, leaving behind tiny invisible pockets throughout the crust. That's why her crust shattered when you bit into it, while the rest just did not. Now, the next trick involves something Grandma guarded more fiercely than her own handbag. Cooking with bacon grease. Grandma had a jar sitting on her stove that contained bacon grease, and in her kitchen, pouring it down the drain after breakfast was basically a crime sufficient enough to get you banned from her kitchen for life. Every morning after frying bacon, she would let the drippings cool off slightly, strain out the bits, and pour what remained into that glass jar. Interestingly enough, that single jar did the job of butter, oil, and seasoning simultaneously. A spoonful into a skillet of cornbread batter or a dollop into a pot of green beans suddenly made vegetables taste like something you would only find in a 5-star hotel. Then olive oil came into the picture, but it's never going to carry that deep smoky complexity that bacon grease delivers in one spoonful. But Grandma's cold tricks did not stop there, and her next one just showed how creative she could get. Ice cube in burger patties. Grandma never pressed her burgers down on the grill. But there is something that she was actually doing that not many people know about. She would hide an ice cube inside each patty before it ever touched the heat. It sounds and looks ridiculous, but the results were so consistently juicy that nobody ever thought to question her methods. So, what does an ice cube have to do with all these? As the outside of the patty hit the hot grill, the ice inside melts slowly, steaming the meat from within before it ever gets the chance to dry out. The center will stay tender while the outside got that perfect sear. Just a simple ice cube, no special blends or fancy techniques. As long as Grandma had that, supermarket patties never stood a chance. And speaking of ingenious methods, this next one will equally blow your mind. Soaking onions in cold water. You can relate to this scenario. You bite into a salad, hit a raw onion, and suddenly you are reconsidering every decision that led you to this meal. Guess who knew that moment too? You're right, Grandma. And that's why she never let it happen. Before any raw onion touched the salad bowl in her kitchen, it took a 10-minute cold water bath first. Raw onions taste so sharp because of certain natural chemicals. In fact, it is the same chemicals that make your eyes water when you are cutting them. But cold water pulls those chemicals right out, leaving the onion crisp, fresh, and pleasant to eat, and Grandma knew all that. Modern hybrid onions are sweeter now, sure, but somehow Grandma's trick produced a more delicate and balanced flavor that today's varieties have never quite managed to replicate. This next trick was equally divisive and equally impossible to argue with. Anchovies in bolognese sauce. There's a 95% chance that you just flinched on hearing the word anchovies, and that reaction is exactly what Grandma was counting on nobody having, because she never told a soul what she was putting in her bolognese, and her bolognese was legendary. This is because she understood something simple. Those tiny, pungent, and aggressively fishy little fillets completely disappear the moment they hit hot oil. Within 2 minutes of hitting the pan alongside the onions and garlic, they dissolve, leaving behind absolutely zero fishness. Instead, what they do leave behind is a deep and savory richness that makes a 2-hour sauce taste as if it had simmered since Tuesday. The technique behind it was straightforward. Anchovies are packed with the compounds that trigger umami on your palate. They don't add flavor, but they amplify everything around them. And if hiding fish in pasta sounds bold, this next kitchen move unlocked a new level of bold. Salt in coffee to reduce bitterness. Now, this might sound weird and a bit unconventional, but there are times when Grandma would put salt in her coffee. And against all odds, the coffee came out smoother and more aromatic than anything a modern machine produces on its best day. But there is something that you need to know about this trick. The thing is, salt does not mask bitterness. It interrupts it. A tiny pinch of salt actually blocks the part of your taste buds that taste bitterness. That way, the smoother and richer flavors in the coffee come through unobstructed. It's the exact same principle behind salted caramel, where the salt filters out the bad flavors rather than adding. And Grandma knew all this in the 60s. This next trick required zero fancy ingredients and one rule nobody was allowed to break: covering lasagna with foil. There was an unspoken rule in Grandma's kitchen that no one ever dared break. You did not open that oven, you did not peek, and you absolutely did not touch the foil. For the first 40 minutes, that lasagna was completely sealed, crimped edges, tight corners, and not even a single gap. And everyone in the house just had to wait, suffering through that aroma with zero access. So what was the foil for? Mainly, it was to trap heat. The trapped heat would then convert moisture into steam, and that steam was doing something a bare oven simply could not do: cooking every single layer evenly, from the pasta sheets down to the deepest pockets of meat filling. And it did all that without sacrificing a drop of moisture. Then, and only then, the foil came off. 10 minutes of direct heat turned the cheese into something else entirely, gloriously golden and slightly crisp at the edges. But this next side dish's secret was somehow even more indulgent: cooking potatoes in heavy cream. Boiling potatoes in water was unheard of in Grandma's kitchen, and once you understand why, you will also embrace her ingenious approach to cooking potatoes. While everyone else was draining a pot of plain water and stirring in cream afterward, Grandma was submerging raw potato pieces directly into heavy cream and letting them slowly simmer right there. It sounds indulgent, yet when potatoes cook inside cream rather than water, something irreversible happens. The starch released from each piece dissolves directly into the fat surrounding it and then gets drawn back in. The richness lives inside every single bite. No amount of post-boil butter or cream stirred in afterward can replicate that. Calorie counts eventually won the argument, and Grandma's tricks was soon forgotten. Let us know your thoughts about these recipes, and remember to subscribe for more videos just like this.